We are all one of us, no one else but Hello, good evening, brothers and sisters. Good evening. Another day the Lord has made, another evening the Lord has made. It is the 13th of December 2020, and I welcome you to Contending for Dominica. We always start by giving thanks and praises to the Most High. We want to be grateful. We want to express sincere love and faithfulness to our Maker, Jehovah God, for giving us another day. We're in the land of the living, and we have to be very happy for that. Those of you who are sick, I pray that you feel better. Those of you who lost a loved one, I hope that you mourn in peace. Be strong and be of good courage. So tonight, we're here once again to engage, to interact on a national issue. This time we are going to look at the decriminalization of marijuana. Sometimes we refer to it as pot or weed in the Commonwealth of Dominica. I want to hear your views as to whether you are satisfied with the extent to which the state has attempted to respond to the use of marijuana, particularly medicinal and recreational marijuana. Let me just, as usual, identify those who are here with me. I urge you to share this page, to continue to promote this page. It is a platform for us to interact and to discuss important national issues in the Commonwealth of Dominica. Of course, our objective is to share our knowledge. I'm not here as a professor, here to dictate the conversation. I'm here as a facilitator. I present a topic and give each and every one of you an opportunity to give your views. Of course, we have different views. We are to agree to disagree. We must be civil. We must be respectful. The platform is not an opportunity to bash, to disparage, and to go after anyone personally. It is an intellectual platform for the purpose of enlightenment, for the purpose of objective reasoning, and our discussion should be based on evidence. We should not be prepared to make remarks which cannot be substantiated by facts. So, as I said, once again, welcome. I want you to share the page, share the broadcast, tell your friends that Joshua Francis, your host, is contending for Dominica. We are a team. We are contending for Dominica this 14th day of December 2020. Of course, we are less than 2 weeks away from Christmas Day. I know wherever you are, you have great memories. If you're a young person, you certainly do not have the memories that older persons have in celebrating Christmas in Dominica. Of course, many of you are not currently in Dominica. You may be in Australia, you may be someplace in Europe, you must be someplace in North America, whether the United States of America or Canada, or you may be in a neighboring Caribbean island. Wherever you are, I hope that you are having a good one. Of course, those of you in Europe, if I have anyone here in Europe, it will be very late now. You know, we are looking at 7:09 p.m. Eastern Time, and it would be over almost midnight in most European countries. Those of you in the United States of America, particularly those in the West, you would be earlier. It is now 7:09 in Dominica, 6:09 in New York and the eastern border of the United States of America. Central Time, of course, is even earlier, and those of you on the West, as I said, is even earlier. So thank you for joining me. Thank you for coming together another Sunday, a day the Lord has made. Of course, today is the Lord's Day. Many of you all went to church, and many of you are praying for the weak, the poor, and the afflicted. Those of you who remember me in prayers, I want to thank you. I am so grateful. I know that many of you have been praying. You have kept me in prayers, knowing that I need prayers, and I always encourage you to pray for me. I am a God-fearing person. I believe in the Almighty God. Some of you all may not. Some of you may believe, but not to the extent where you commit your life to God. I urge all of us to just be good to each other, to love each other, to care for each other, and to continue to stand for a better Dominica. our ultimate and common objective is to contribute towards a better life for each and everyone here in Dominica. Those of you in the diaspora, I know some of you want to come back to Dominica. You want a better place. You want a place with better medical facilities, better physical infrastructure, a better economy, higher quality of life, more economic growth, higher salaries, wages, better roads, of course, an international airport, a modern marina, sports facilities, trained medical doctors, great customer service. Some of the few things that you would like to see in Dominica. It is possible. We can do it. Dominica can get to a point where we can eliminate poverty and all of us can live a basic standard of living. Of course, some of you believe in universal salaries and universal opportunities, a greater sense of equality of distribution of wealth, and that's what we want. That's what we're aiming for. Of course, those who have a lot, we do not want to take from you. We're not Robin Hoods. We just want to create a more level playing field, focus particularly on those who do not have. So tonight we're not going to stray away from the topic. The issue at hand really is a question of whether the government of Dominica has done enough as far as marijuana is concerned. And I want to hear your views on the subject because some of you all are consumers of marijuana. Some of you all use it for medicinal purposes. It is alleged that marijuana is good for several ailments, whether it is bronchitis, among other respiratory issues. It deals with that. It's alleged it's also good for high blood pressure, among other things. There is a divide on the debate as to whether marijuana is good for you or whether it is bad for you. Of course, you have your own views. What I know is that different bodies, different minds react to marijuana differently, just as any other substance going into our body. And of course, some of you refer to marijuana as a drug, and some of us don't. Some of us believe that marijuana is a herb. It is a natural plant. It was created by Jah, as we say. It was created by the Almighty God, and it should not be categorized as a drug. It is not cocaine. It is not synthetic. Of course, marijuana is used in fusion with several things, but marijuana in its pure state and natural state is part of creation, and as such, some of us do not consider it to be a drug. Some of us don't even consider it to be dangerous to us, except that some people are intolerant to the use of marijuana. So you have your views, and I want to hear you. I see Artisan Lovey is here with us as usual. I want to thank you for joining us. My laptop always gives me some issues as far as identifying the people who are here with me and to take note of your comments. I want to take note of your comments. I want you to tell me that you're here. I want to hear your views. I want to know that you agree or you disagree with what has happened in Dominica. Of course, just to start up the conversation, a few weeks ago, the government of Dominica went into the House of Parliament to to amend the Drug Use and Prevention Act of Dominica to facilitate decriminalization of marijuana. And of course, you have heard the word decriminalization. You have also heard legalization. Some of you all are familiar with the Peter Tosh song that says, legalize the weed, legalize it. And more recently, you have been hearing decriminalization. So before we proceed, we must first draw the distinction between decriminalization and legalization. Of course, when we talk of decriminalization, basically what we're saying is that the government has removed sanctions in respect to the use of a small portion of marijuana. In Dominica, like Antigua, St. Vincent, Trinidad, and Jamaica, as well as the Cayman Islands within the region, you are allowed now to have 28 grams of marijuana, and that is for your personal use. Whether it's for medicinal or recreational, you will not be sanctioned, you will not be charged for that amount. That is just about 1 ounce of marijuana. Previously, the Drugs Act of Dominica forbade anyone or being in possession of marijuana, whether for medicinal, religious, or recreational purposes. But with the amendments, you are now allowed to have 28 grams of marijuana for your own personal use. Of course, personal use could be for religious purposes, could be for recreational purposes, or it could be for medicinal purposes. Those who are qualified to possess and consume such amount of marijuana must be at least 18 years old. So in other words, if you are less than 18 years old, in spite of the decriminalization of a small portion of marijuana, you are not allowed to have marijuana in your possession. So I want you to take note of that. Anyone who is under 18 years of age in the Commonwealth of Dominica is not allowed to possess marijuana, whether for medicinal or recreational or religious purposes. Furthermore, with the amendments, you are forbidden from consuming the marijuana in public places, particularly at bars, shops, supermarkets, and so on and so forth. Therefore, the use of an ounce of marijuana should be done privately. So those are some of the conditions. You must be 18 years of age, you must not smoke the weed in public places, and you're not allowed to have more than 28 grams of marijuana. Having more than 28 grams would suggest that you want to sell marijuana, which is not legal in the Commonwealth of Dominica. And that is one of the fundamental differences between legalization and decriminalization. Legalization, on the other hand, when, as in Colorado, in the United States, and in Canada and Netherlands and several other places in the world, legalization actually means that the criminalization of marijuana is abolished. It means that there's no sanctions. You're allowed to have it, you're allowed to use it, you're allowed to sell it. The difference in countries where marijuana has been legalized and in places where it has been decriminalized, as in Dominica, is that in places like Dominica, marijuana use is not controlled by any central authority. So it means that the illegal, as we say, more than 28 grams, it is illegal to possess, it's illegal to sell, it is illegal to cultivate, except with the decriminalization, you're now allowed to grow 4 plants at your home. So again, that has to be private. You cannot go and plant a plantation of marijuana on the ground that it has been decriminalized, and as such, you can now cultivate it and sell it. And that is where the discussion should be tonight. I want you to tell me whether you think that Dominica has done enough in respect to the change in attitude towards marijuana. Of course, in the United States, several states, as many as 11, have legalized the weed. In several places in Europe, legalized the weed. Canada and Jamaica, which is one of the first pioneers in the movement towards decriminalization and legalization of marijuana, is more advanced than Dominica and St. Vincent. Of course, the Prime Minister of St. Vincent is an advocate for the legalization of the marijuana, but St. Vincent has not gone down that road. In Antigua, there has been discussions about the full legalization of marijuana. So I want you to tell me, what do you think? I'm just going to check my phone to see whether you are present. I just want to acknowledge your presence here. Daria, good evening. Merlin Bruno, good evening. Eve Pite, Attison, is that Vaughn, good evening. And of course, we have some quiet followers, wherever you are, I hope that you're having a good evening. Once again, welcome to Contending for Dominica. This is a broadcast which is held every Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. It's an opportunity for you to share your views on different subjects. Of course, every week we will have a different topic. If it necessitates an extension and repeat of one of the topics, so we shall do. But for now, we are discussing marijuana, the pot, the weed. I don't know whether you use it personally, and if you do, for what purposes. But here in Dominica, we can celebrate the decriminalization of marijuana. As to whether that's a profound change or transformation that has occurred in our parliament and that will touch lives, that is questionable because, of course, we have a number of users, particularly young people, young men in particular, tend to consume marijuana for recreational purposes. Even as I speak, if you go through Dominica, you go in the so-called blocks, you will meet a number of young people smoking the weed. And of course, there are no sanctions for smoking the weed in private places once it is less than 28 grams. But the question is, should the government have gone beyond that? Should we legalize the weed? Especially in the view of the fact that we now have commercialization of the marijuana. Marijuana use, marijuana sale is an economic generator. It can make money for us. And given that we are a limited resource country with limited funds, we are cash strapped, and COVID has not helped the situation. Some people are of the view that we should have gone beyond decriminalization and simply legalize the weed, make it legal for the people of Dominica to cultivate marijuana and be able to export marijuana. It is alleged that hybrid marijuana of high purity and potency can fetch as high as $500 for a pound. Now that is significant. $500 for a pound of good marijuana. Well, sorry, it is 5,000. Let me correct that. It is $5,000 for a pound of marijuana on some markets in the US. So try to imagine being a cultivator of marijuana and being able to ship your marijuana to the United States or Canada and to fetch $5,000 a pound. As we speak, the market value of marijuana in Dominica would be 1,000 EC a pound. So we're looking at $400 as opposed to $5,000. So you can see a marked difference. And therefore, the argument for the legalization is also based on economics. Some people think that should the government of Dominica legalize the weed, then as a country, we would be able to benefit economically. It would be a major cash crop. We would cultivate several areas of land in Dominica and to export that weed to Canada or the United States, and that would gain Dominica a huge profit. Several small farmers would benefit, and the country as a whole would generate foreign exchange. Let me just see what you're saying here. You say, Atison, you say, many people in the past, especially in the 1980s, used the herb as a source of income. Well, yes, and good night, Judith. Yes, we continue to have people using marijuana as a source of income. And while I'm on that point, that is an argument which, again, is for legalization, because people are of the view that those who are benefiting financially from the cultivation and commercialization of marijuana are criminal groups. Criminal groups are the ones who are benefiting from the sale of marijuana in places where the weed has not been legalized. Of course, we do not have a deep cartel in Dominica, as in several other countries where marijuana is even a bigger business, and you have certain groups which have monopolized the cultivation and export of marijuana. Some people have the view by legalization of the weed, then it removes the criminality associated with the cultivation and export of marijuana, and as such, we will have a better place as far as less crimes which are normally associated with the cultivation and export of marijuana. Of course, another point for legalization of marijuana is that the state will save money as far as judicial expenses are concerned. And that is one of the benefits of decriminalization, in that by removing sanctions, by not punishing people for a small portion of marijuana, it means that there will be no need to arrest them, take them before the court, dirty their police records, and in some cases even incarcerate them. On that ground, one of the conditions or one of the amendments which has taken place in the Drug Use, Misuse and Prevention Act in Dominica is that those who were found guilty for small portion, 15 grams and less of marijuana over the past 3 years, that will be removed from your police record. So that is one of the benefits. And I would think that the economic point for legalization of marijuana is a very strong one, because we are cash strapped in Dominica. We want money. We want foreign exchange. We want a better life. We want people to be able to build, to repair, to maintain their homes, to be able to send the children to school, to be able to take care of their medical bills, take care of their loans, and so on and so forth. And had we legalized the weed and make it possible to export, then we would have more money coming into the country. We would have an increase in inflows, and that would help improve the quality of life of Dominica. But of course, there are arguments against legalization of marijuana. And even here in Dominica, we are sitting between two French territories, which are members of the European Union for France, and as such, our behavior, our legal behavior must be considered in view of the reactions of the French authorities and European authorities. We are still signatories to a number of international treaties which continue to declare marijuana as a drug, and in as much as the world is changing, the United Nations has not taken a concrete stance on legalization of marijuana. A matter of fact, from my readings, the United Nations Drugs Authority Agency continues to think that the use of marijuana is dangerous to the health, the mental health of people, particularly younger people. Of course, you have a different view, you can share that. All right. Yes, welcome, Darius. Now, if we are to legalize marijuana, it's not just a question where the country authorities go to Parliament and make the amendments, and then we wake up one morning and marijuana is legalized. With legalization comes with public responsibility. For those of you in the United States of America, if you're following what is happening in several states where marijuana has been legalized, it is done in a manner where it is regulated. So you have an authority for licensing the cultivation, the export, and consumption of marijuana. So in other words, if the government were to legalize marijuana, before it does so, it would have to put several facilities in place. It would have to set up a licensing authority, which would be responsible to provide license to consumers and to producers, as well as exporters. And that is one of the regulating bodies that would have to be in place. Of course, you would need bodies which are responsible to deal with what may happen, as it happened in Colorado, where people smoke the weed and they get affected. So probably we need more counselors. We probably would need more facilities within the medical infrastructure to deal with possible negative ramifications for greater consumption of the weed. I'm just saying. But legalization would mean more responsibilities as a government to deal with the export of marijuana. So let me just look at some of your comments here, so that, as I said, I want this to be interactive. I want to hear your views. I want you to tell me what you think, whether we should have legalized, whether we should legalize marijuana in Dominica. Of course, the main argument is to benefit financially. Some of you are very skeptical about legalization of marijuana because you fear that some people will be mentally affected by the use of marijuana. But the point is that people are using it anyway. And legalization is not necessarily going to increase the number of people using marijuana in Dominica. Legalization would simply mean that we would be able to get a license to cultivate the marijuana, to consume, and to export the marijuana. The question associated with that would be, would Dominica really benefit from such a move, given that we have limited lands? We cannot compete with the Netherlands, which has started exporting the marijuana to Canada. And the answer is yes, we would do well because we would actually differentiate our weed from other producers. Dominica has high quality water, pure water, and with the type of soil that we have, we could actually get involved in the strain of marijuana which is organic and to distinguish ourselves on the market and fetch the highest price as possible. All right. So what do you think? Do you think that the government of Dominica should have legalized, that we didn't go far enough? I just want to hear your views. Of course, some of you may be associated with physicians and you may be thinking as a scientist, and just based on medical purposes, you might think that even decriminalization of marijuana is a bad idea. Some of you look at weed as a drug and you think that it has adverse effects on consumers and therefore it is not a good idea. And some of you, like me, thinking of the big picture and thinking of the realities in the changing world, believe that legalization of marijuana should take place. And if we are to legalize, what exactly are we waiting for again? All the studies have already been conducted, even here in the Caribbean. CARICOM has a commission which has done research on the possible legalization of marijuana in the Caribbean, and therefore based on the findings we could take a more proactive and more vigorous approach in dealing with marijuana. But like many other countries, we are followers, we are not leaders. We tend to wait for the world to move for us to move, and then the window of opportunity for Dominica is closing. Because once other countries start to legalize, it means that the opportunities which we can actually extract from the marijuana market as we speak will shrink, because you'll have more players and actors in the market. And based on the concept of demand and supply, given our small size and our limited capabilities, we would not be able to compete with bigger countries. Even here in the Caribbean, as an example, should Guyana go ahead and legalize marijuana and start to export? Can we compete with Guyana, which has thousands and thousands of acres of land which you could put on the marijuana cultivation? So that's the point. We like to follow, we like to wait for somebody to lead us. And longer we take to legalize marijuana first, to realize the economic benefits which are associated with it, is less opportunities we'll get going forward. So I'm just looking. I see Viva Mamo. Good evening. I just want to point out Viva Mamo, such a bright intellectual. Wherever you are, I like that you're always posting and trying to stir people's thoughts to get a better understanding of the issues in Dominica. I see here you said, Josh, this was just a few days ago. You said something here. Alice T. Lovey. I'm going to read what you sent, Viva, so that I can share it with everyone on the broadcast. I see that Artisan is saying it should be legalized and have it grown in a controlled manner. Have marijuana farmers or have a cooperative where the farmers can sell the herb. That cooperative can do the marketing. It can be distilled into oil like the bay oil industry. Well, yes, Artisan, that is a practical suggestion, and that is possible. Again, that would help stimulate economic growth, and that would put more monies in the hands of small people, not just criminal actors as we perceive those who are currently cultivating the marijuana. And the country as a whole would benefit, because once we start to distill the marijuana and put it in the form of an oil, which has a very high value in the market, it means that we'll be able to generate foreign exchange. And as such, that will permeate into the country's economy and raise the standard of living. But I just want to look at something here. Viva Mamo said UN reclassifies cannabis as a less dangerous drug. Thank you, Viva, for correcting me on that. You know, when I read on the United Nations position in the past, I was rather stunned that the United Nations considered marijuana as adverse and was resistant to the changing tides. But with more countries, particularly powerful countries, legalizing marijuana or loosening the laws in respect to the use of marijuana, the United Nations has reclassified cannabis as a less dangerous drug. The United Nations Commission voted to remove marijuana for medical use from a list of the most risky narcotics such as heroin. So here we go. At one time, the United Nations actually classified marijuana or the herb in the same group with heroin. And the ordinary man, particularly a Rasta man, would always have a problem with that because we do not consider marijuana to be a drug. We consider it to be a herb, a natural plant, and it ought never to have been classified as a drug. It ought to never have been placed in the same group with heroin and cocaine and crack and these sort of things. But again, you must look at the history of marijuana. Who are the people who started using marijuana? Who are the main users of marijuana? Which religion promotes marijuana? So you have to look at the historical concept of the use of marijuana to understand why is it that Big Brother wanted to control. And even now, as we speak about the commercialization or legalization of marijuana, who are the people who are going to benefit? Big Brothers again. You're going to have the pharmaceutical societies. You're going to have people who have a lot of money to invest in the industry, be the big players. If you look at California and Washington and some other places, you will see who are the people benefiting. Judith Geist, yes, it should have been legalized with controls in place for minors. The current government are not forward thinking and couldn't move this enterprise forward to benefit Dominicans. Well, Judith, again, yeah, I agree. We are followers. We are waiting for our neighbors to legalize it first to go into parliament to legalize it. And by then, there'll be more players and actors in the market, and therefore the possibilities of benefiting from foreign exchange through the sale of marijuana and byproducts would have closed on us. So as time elapses, the window of opportunity is shrinking, and therefore the potential for Dominica to really benefit from that is closing on us. But it's going to take a very forward-thinking, a very aggressive and visionary leader to take that stance. And one may say that is likely to more happen in places like St. Vincent, where you have Ralph Gonzalez, a very forward-thinking person on the use of marijuana. Good evening, Ramona. Good evening, Maltina Desiree. Welcome to Contending for Dominica. We meet every Sunday at 8 p.m. We discuss national issues. We look at matters which have concern to the people of Dominica, and we share our views. Of course, this platform is a very friendly platform. It is bipartisan. We welcome everybody, and we want you to be part of the discussion. So this day, on this 13th day of December 2020, we are looking at the use of marijuana, and we are questioning whether the government of Dominica has gone far enough in terms of loosening the laws of Dominica, and whether the decriminalization of marijuana in Dominica has had any profound effect on our society. Has it helped anybody? Well, from a legal point of view, it has helped as far as not having the people who are using marijuana for recreational purposes brought before the court to punish them. In some cases, I have seen young people go to prison, spend a night in the cell, over the use of a joint. And if you appear in the court 3 or 4 times, the magistrate says, well, you're not learning, and therefore I'm going to have to put you to sleep at the prisons. So with decriminalization, we're not going to see that. You have less than 28 grams, you're not going to be sanctioned for that. And as such, the judiciary now has more time to deal with more pressing issues, as well as people with criminal record. In the past, if somebody was found guilty for possession of marijuana, an employer would look down on that person. But with that being said, such are some of the benefits in the decriminalization of marijuana. Hi, Trevor, Fabian. Good evening. I hope all is well with you. Let me take the opportunity to express my sympathy over the loss of your brother. That news really came as a shock and surprise to me. I'm glad to see you on Facebook. I assume that you are being strong. I urge you to continue being strong. Isabella, good evening to you. Vincent Warrington, good evening. You're watching from California. I hope all is well in California, Vincent. I don't know whether in your area marijuana is legalized. You can walk to a shop and eat some marijuana cake, get some marijuana cream, get some, marijuana sweets. I mean, there are so many different products coming from the use of marijuana nowadays. Wherever you are, I hope all is well. Alison Valois, is that Volier? Good evening to you. I hope all is well. Yes, artisan, Josh, alcohol is selling big time all over the Caribbean. Businesses make a lot of money in the sale of it, and it's not affecting the sales. So why shouldn't marijuana be a problem on the market, even if other Caribbean islands produce it? Hi, Juanita Prince. Thank you for joining us. Yeah, well, always been a line of contention, the fact that we have legalized the use of alcohol. We can argue from a medicinal point of view that alcohol consumption is bad for us. So why hold on the herb on the ground that marijuana is bad for us? Probably alcohol is more dangerous. Just as a reasonable person can use alcohol in moderation, likewise, the use of marijuana can be consumed in moderation. But decriminalizing it and not getting the real benefit from it, kind of a paradox. And that is where the conversation is tonight. If we were to do a poll to find out from Dominica whether we should have legalized the weed, I wonder what result we would get. Some of us are still very religious and we frown upon the use of marijuana. And when I say religious, traditional religious people, I'm not talking about the Rastas. They tend to look down on the use of marijuana, and as such, probably the poll would show that we should not legalize it. Celia, good evening. I hope you're doing well wherever you are. I hope your family is doing well. We're here discussing the weed, marijuana. Have we done enough in the use of marijuana? Should we wait on our neighbors to go beyond where we are right now? Should we establish a pan-regional group, a pan-regional integrated commission for the regulation of marijuana, not just in Dominica, but in the Caribbean? Should we wait on our neighbors to have a harmonized legal framework to legalize the marijuana? Should we? Just some of the questions that we should put forward. Should we establish a cannabis licensing authority while we are putting things in place for legalization? Could it be that decriminalization of marijuana in Dominica is just preparation for legalization? Should we start to educate and enlighten our people on cultivation of marijuana? Should we have a course at the Dominica State College to teach more about marijuana, not just from a medicinal point of view, but from a cultivation point of view, from a control point of view, from the opportunities which are available, and how young entrepreneurs could eventually get into the sale of marijuana, not just on the local market, but regional and international market. Because think of it, if you can get $5,000 for 1 pound of marijuana, can you imagine? Can you imagine how far we would go as far as making money? Could marijuana be the new green gold in Dominica? You remember the 80s when bananas was king? It brought in millions of dollars for us. People were able to build houses in cash from the sale of bananas. Could marijuana be the new king on our market? Are we losing an opportunity? Are we moving too slow? Those are the questions which I am putting before you, and I would like to hear your views. So let me just check to see if we have any more views here on the subject, because I want to interact with you. I want to hear your views. I want to know whether you're in favor or disfavor on the legalization of marijuana. So Vincent is saying here, yes, in California, you order by phone and it delivered to your door. Cash can only, and the government get their tax cut. Yes, and I'm happy that Vincent has raised that issue of tax, because with legalization, it means that the government can now tax marijuana. And of course, when you tax marijuana, like any product, that is a source of revenue for the government. So in Dominica, if we were to legalize the marijuana, we have our regulations. We give license to producers. We give license to a few exporters, and consumers could get license based on how much marijuana they desire, whether it's for recreational or medicinal purposes. We would then be able to tax the transaction concerning marijuana on the market, and therefore that would be a source of income for the government. So we are looking at the economy not only from a foreign exchange point of view, in that when you sell the marijuana, you get US or Euro in exchange for that marijuana. But the marijuana itself being sold on our market would attract a tax, which is another source of income for the people of Dominica. So I'm happy that Vincent raised that point, because taxation is an important source of income for any government, and therefore we could benefit from this. So thank you, Vincent, for raising that important point about taxation in respect to the marketing of marijuana is concerned. Even as we speak, as long as we keep marijuana as an illegal substance and we do not legalize the sale of marijuana, the state has to put the necessary judicial elements, the judicial organs in place to criminalize the sale of marijuana, and that takes state resources. So you legalize it, and all of a sudden you do not need that kind of expenditure as far as controlling the sale of marijuana. The expenditure that would be required is to regulate the marijuana, and of course that would generate significant funds for us here in the Commonwealth of Dominica. I certainly support legalization of marijuana. I believe that the studies have shown that it's not going to destroy us. It's not going to send people to the psychiatric unit, as some people think. Of course, like alcohol or anything that is used in excess of moderation, we can be affected. Some time ago, there were quite a number of discussions emanating from the jurisdiction of Colorado in the United States of America, showing that the use of marijuana has affected a number of people's idiosyncrasies, has affected them psychologically. Well, we are not disputing that. Again, we just have to put the necessary framework in place to educate people on the use of marijuana, and we could benefit from this full time. So yes, I'm in support of legalization, subject to the proper infrastructure and framework in place for the proper cultivation, proper consumption, proper export, and proper collection of the revenues. I think that would help a number of families in Dominica. Initially, the small man would benefit, and like with bananas, he can put his 1 acre, his half acre of land for the cultivation of marijuana. I see Laurie here. Thanks, Alison. I forgot, but I should have received a notification. Yeah, so this evening we're just looking at marijuana. It is not the sexiest topic, but like any and everything in Dominica, we have to pay attention to it. Some of us may pay attention to certain things more than others, but we must keep an eye on every aspect of our development. We must keep an eye on every aspect, everything that's happening in Dominica. I just wanted to announce, for those of you who are not aware, that a few weeks ago, the government of Dominica went into Parliament and made amendments to our Drug Misuse and Prevention Act to decriminalize marijuana. One, you are now allowed to have 28 grams or less, of just about 1 ounce of marijuana or less. You're now allowed to grow or to plant 4 marijuana plants in your yard. If you had a record for possession of marijuana in less than 15 grams, that will be removed on your police record. We are also facing the use of marijuana privately. You're not allowed to go into public places to smoke it. And if you're not 18 years of age, you're not allowed to use it. or to be in possession of it. So these are some of the amendments which took place, and we're just discussing whether the government ought to have gone further, meaning to legalize it. Legalize it. We heard the Minister of Legal Affairs on the subject, we heard the Prime Minister, and in essence they're saying, look, we're not ready to legalize, but we are moving forward. I guess they're waiting on our neighbors, waiting on what Jamaica does, waiting on what St. Vincent does, and then we'll make the move. But we do not always have to wait on our neighbors to make the move. We have to be aggressive, and sometimes we just have to be proactive. We just have to do it, get it done. Because as more and more countries legalize the weed, it means that the opportunity for us to really make money out of this will shrink. It will get smaller. And therefore, such an opportunity would cause us to lose out. So now is the time. We have to make the move now. If we can generate millions of dollars from the sale of marijuana, probably for the next 5-10 years, that will go a long way in the advancement of our people. And I fear that if we don't legalize now, should we wait for all our neighbors to legalize, then such an opportunity would have gone away. Of course, we can differentiate ourselves by promoting organic marijuana, and that's where the whole issue of Nature Island comes in, because we have something unique, we have something special, but we're not making optimal use of our distinct position in the Caribbean. We are not making the best use of our peculiar situation. Only if we could really understand what we have here in terms of water, soil, air, and we package that with the cultivation of organic marijuana, believe me, we could make a lot of money. We could really advance our people. I see here, Josh, legalization of marijuana does not mean that people can sit anywhere to smoke. The same way we are complaining about cigarettes, marijuana should be smoked the same way, not in public. Some people do not like to smell the marijuana. Some people do not like the smell of cigarettes. Some people think they can stand anywhere to smoke, in office, at a bar, in a party, and so on. Yes, that point is well taken. As I said earlier, legalization comes with regularization. It does not mean that you just live in a utopian society where you can go anywhere to smoke, you can plant as you want, you can export as you want. There would be a licensing authority which would actually allow certain persons to cultivate, which would also allow certain persons to export, and there will be other regulations whereby you'll not be able to smoke in certain places, you'll not be able to smoke a certain type, etc., etc. So that point is well taken. But I believe that we should really push forward and ask for the legalization of the weed. As I said, one of the concerns that may arise in a discussion is what ramifications, if any, the legalization of marijuana in Dominica would have in regards to a relationship with France through Guadeloupe and Martinique. Should we legalize marijuana? Does it mean that all of a sudden we're going to have more people trying to get marijuana into Guadeloupe and Martinique, given that now it would be legal? The argument could be for or against. I would take the position that it would not increase the export of marijuana, or as we say, a backdoor or black market marijuana into Guadeloupe and Martinique. As a matter of fact, what it would do, it would damage the monopolization of the export of marijuana, because right now, the people who are taking the marijuana to our neighbors are people who are willing to take a risk. But people who sometimes put their lives at risk, people who are sometimes perceived to be dangerous. With legalization, there'll be no need for such clandestine activity, and therefore it will be a question of making arguments to France, making a proper arrangement with Guadeloupe and Martinique in terms of our marijuana. And who knows, I have not looked into the policy of France concerning marijuana, but like everywhere else, it's just a matter of time. Because what we're seeing here is a domino effect. We're seeing a universal change in attitude towards the use of marijuana. And within the next 5 years, probably every country in the world, except a few, would have legalized marijuana. In certain parts of the world, even like Cuba as an example, there's zero tolerance for the use of marijuana. But even Cuba itself is subject to change. So it's just a matter of time. You've seen a paradigm shift in the use and production of marijuana. But I want to hear your views. I want to hear what you have to say. It is now 5 minutes before the hour of 9 p.m. I'm going to leave you momentarily. We are not going to spend a long night here. Of course, it is Sunday, the 13th of December 2020. Today is the Lord's Day, a Sabbath day for many of you, especially those of you in Dominica, those of you in the United States of America. You probably came from work. Some of you may be at work. Some of you may be getting ready to go to work. I just want us to be calm, to be very grateful that another day has been dawned upon us, and that those of us who are going to bed, that will have a good night rest to rise to face another beautiful day. And for those of you who are at work, I hope you don't have too many hours to go before you get home. And of course, some of you are going to get ready to go to work. Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, I just hope that you're having a beautiful time, that you're thankful, and that you are prepared and willing to stand for something, and prepared and willing to stand for another person. And that is what we are doing here. Of course, we are not gladiators here. We are simply disseminators. We are having a discourse on the use of marijuana in terms of decriminalization versus legalization. One of many topics that we will be dealing with. We have dealt with a few of them, and we have many more to go. Sometime later in the year, of course, we don't have many more days to go before we call it quit on 2020. We'll be having a year in review. As a matter of fact, the last Sunday of the month, we'll be having a year in review. And I would want you to invite all your friends, all your family members, tell them that Contending for Dominica is going to have its own version of a year in review. You can make the suggestions, you can inbox me, you can WhatsApp me, you can ask me to deal with a certain issue which you want to punctuate your points on, you want to vent, make the suggestion, and I will follow, because this is not about me, this is about us. This is a little social platform to promote discussions on national issues. We'll also be looking for a person of the year. We'll be looking for a person of the year. So on Contending for Dominica, we are going to look at nominees. So I'll put up a post, and that post will give you an opportunity to nominate someone who you think is deserving to be Person of the Year 2020. So I can tell you that my nominee thus far is Cara Shillingford. And I will tell you why she's my nominee. She's my nominee because she has helped shape the jurisprudence in Dominica. She has shown fearlessness in challenging the state. And for a long time, we did not have that kind of attorney who was prepared or who is prepared to challenge the state. And she has challenged the state at the highest level, the Caribbean Court of Justice, and she has tasted success. And I believe that she's deserving to be Personality of the Year 2020 in the Commonwealth of Dominica. Of course, there are other persons. Another person who comes to mind is Irvin McIntyre, the Minister of Health in the Commonwealth of Dominica. He has gotten a lot of commendations for the management of the pandemic COVID in Dominica. And some of you may think that he's deserving to be Person of the Year in the Commonwealth of Dominica 2020. So that will be part of a segment in one of our programs, one of the last 3 programs of 2020. So I will put up my nominees and give you an opportunity to declare your nominee. And we could also have a poll to ascertain who is most deserving to be Personality of the Year in Dominica 2020. We also want to look at housing, the social housing in Dominica. There are several issues associated with social housing in Dominica. We have to look at the source of funding for social housing in Dominica. As you know, the government of Dominica has entered into a contractual arrangement with MMCE, and several questions have been raised concerning that contractual arrangement, because we believe that the arrangement is dubious, we believe that it's opaque, and we want more accountability and transparency. Questions have been raised as to whether the monies which are channeled into MMCE's escrow account is unlawful on the ground that such proceeds are from the EDF, that is the Economic Diversification Fund, or the contribution fund option under the CBI, and as such that money ought to go to the consolidated funds as opposed to an escrow account under the sole and exclusive management of MMCE. So that is one of the aspects of the social housing in Dominica over the past 5 years that will be discussed here on our broadcast, Contending for Dominica. We'll also be looking at the housing aspect in terms of ownership. Who owns those houses? Of course, we have heard pronouncements from the Prime Minister of Dominica that those apartments, those houses are assets of the state. Now, if they are assets of the state, it means that the occupants in the houses are just licensees. They have life interest, they do not have a legal title in absolute, and therefore they cannot pass on, they cannot wield those apartments. So those are some of the discussions that we'll be having here on our broadcast, and I suspect that topic will be next week. We'll also be looking at the management or the lack thereof for the maintenance of those houses. And we'll look at the Silver Lake housing project as a pilot project, because what we have seen in Silver Lake is that since the construction of those houses and Hurricane Maria passed and the houses have been affected by the apartments, we have not had repairs. As a matter of fact, one of the apartments at Silver Lake has not been lit, and the apartments have not been formally been granted to the occupants. So we want to look at that. We want to look at housing in terms of the state versus individualism. Should we celebrate the state giving away apartments versus a state we should create an enabling environment for people to work and be able to build houses? Of course, you're always going to have and have-nots, but some of us are very critical of the style of governance in Dominica. We are critical of the ideology which this government has employed, whereby it is creating more dependency and less independence. It is creating more of a welfare state as opposed to enterprising state. It is creating a central government state, a more social state as opposed to a market enterprise. Of course, you have your views. Some of us believe in that, some of us don't. But in the final analysis, some of us believe that even if a government wants to make the distribution of wealth more equitable and more universal, it must not take away people's will to fight, people's will to work. It must not disempower people. And some people have the view that is what has happened in Dominica. So we want to discuss that. Of course, by no means and measure, we must never frown upon the state giving away homes to people, especially those who probably will never leave to build a home of their own. When we hear people in their 30s getting an apartment, sometimes we feel the angst because we believe that somebody in his or her 30s should be at his or her prime time to work and take a mortgage. And we see sometimes the unfairness. You have had to work hard. You went to the bank. You took a mortgage. You're still paying on that. And some other person has not worked hard, has not paid a mortgage and getting an apartment. So these are arguments for or against. I personally, I am happy that Dominicans are getting those homes. I celebrate with them, whether the people of Petite Savan who are in Belleville, the people in Jimmy, the people in La Plaine, Cassibros, Grand Fort, wherever you are, Cotton Hill and Norozo, I am happy that you're getting the houses. But I want you to be able to get a salary. I want you to be able to get an income. So not only you can maintain those homes, but you can be independent. You can take care of your children. You can take care of your medical bills. You can send your children to school. You can buy a car. You can take a trip. So that is the topic that we are going to explore. I expect it to be a very interesting topic. I want you to bring in your friends and your acquaintances to join the broadcast when we discuss public housing in Dominica. This is a subject of great interest, of fundamental interest, and I want you to be part and parcel of the discussion. So let me just see what other comments that you have before we call it quit for the night. It is now 5 minutes after 9 in Dominica, and of course, like you, I have to get off the computer so that I can ready myself for tomorrow. I have to be in court. I am more of an attorney now as than a politician. Of course, I'm a social commentator too, and that's why I'm here. I want to be part of the discussion as we move forward. So once again, next week, we're going to look at public housing. We're going to assess the situation concerning the construction of the public houses and apartments in Dominica. Whether you're for it or against it, you should share your view, prepare, go and read up, look up on the contractual arrangement between MMCE and the government of Dominica, understand what has happened. I tend to believe that most people have not understood the mechanics involving the arrangement between MMCE and the Commonwealth of Dominica. And I want you to pay attention to it, because once you pay attention to it, like me, you're going to raise some questions about the legality, about the fairness, because it may very well be a situation when you understand it, you may actually oppose not the granting of the houses, but the nature of the contractual arrangement between MMCE and the Commonwealth of Dominica. On that note, let me express my sincere condolences to the family and friends of Mr. Timmins, the gentleman who managed MMCE. My understanding that he passed away sometime last night. He suffered a heart attack, and that is very sad, of course. No one wants to lose a loved one, whether a person is perceived to be a good or bad person. No one wants to lose a loved one, and a family has lost a son, somebody has lost a friend, somebody has lost a relative. So we here, and I am saying that not just on my behalf, but on your behalf as well, we here on this platform contending for Dominica, we express our condolences over the passing of this gentleman. Of course, it will create a hole in the hearts of MMCE executive team, and it'll create a hole in the hearts of all those who experience this gentleman in one way or the other. He has moved on, like several others who have moved on. Again, I want to take the opportunity to also express my condolences to all of you who have lost a loved one over the past few days. I will be attending a few funerals this week myself, and it's always sad to send somebody off. But that's the reality of life, and that should be a great reminder, the greatest reminder, that we are just flesh and blood. We are mortals. From dust we come, from dust we return, and there's the struggle between the cradle and the grave. And between that time, let us just try to be more loving, more understanding, more forgiving, more caring. Whatever you're going through at this hour, forgive yourself, be strong, be of good courage. If you need to forgive somebody, please do it, because you never know whether you'll get an opportunity to say sorry or to love somebody tomorrow. All right? So we promote that there. We promote that here on our broadcast. We promote the Almighty God, and we promote unity, strength, and we promote decency, we promote respect, we promote honor, and we promote national identity, something that I want to discuss moving forward. Many of us have the view that we have lost our way. We have lost our national identity. We have lost our sense of community. We have lost our sense of nationality. And it's something that I want to promote, something I want to encourage, because it cannot be, as a sovereign country, we do not think of preserving our own culture, of preserving our lands. We are slowly losing Dominica, and we need to reverse that trend. And on that note, I'm going to say good evening to you. I want to tell you that I will always love you. I will always care about you. I love Dominica. That's why I'm here. Like many of you in the diaspora, opportunities have been presented to me and continue to present themselves to me for me to go out there. But I'm happy I'm here in Dominica. I have no regrets that I have presented myself as a servant of the people and for the people. Of course, I've had a very rough period over the past 3 years. I've been baptized by the fire, just as Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the fire never got burnt. I did not get burnt. I'm here, I'm stronger, I'm wiser, I'm more resolute in position to make Dominica a better place. I can't do it on my own. You can't do it on your own. Let us come together and let us stand for Dominica. This is our country, and we have to think of the future generation. We have to think of our children, and we have to think of our grandchildren. Some of us are able to buy tickets and go to other countries, and some of us cannot afford. And that is why we need a better Dominica. We need to stop thinking of blue, red, and green, and think first and foremost of our maker, our brothers and sisters, and our country. With that being said, I want to wish you a great week, a successful week, a week with a lot of cheers. Whatever issues that you're going through, I hope this week will bring resolve. I hope this week will bring success. If you need finances, I hope this week will be a week of great finance for you. If you have an issue at home, you're not talking to your spouse, I hope this week will bring love and kindness and gentleness. If you're going through a period and you feel like the world is ending, I hope this week you will feel like the world has just begun. If you feel that your world is dark, I hope this week you will feel that it is in light. It will be illuminated. If you're sad, I hope this week you will get joy and you'll be able to share, you'll be able to care. Be an inspirer. Be a helper. Be a caring person. Sometimes we look to get, to receive. This week, turn the tables. Look forward to give. Whether it's a smile you can give, whether it's a greeting you can give, whether it's a penny you can give, whether it's a cake you can share, but give something this week. Plant a seed. Invest in your spiritual life, and you will reap the rewards. And of course, invest in Dominica. That's why we're here. We're investing in Dominica. We are planting seeds of enlightenment. We are growing plants of vision. We're here to contend for Dominica. We're here to make Dominica a better place. And we want to thank everybody who has committed himself or herself on that journey. Along the journey, we'll have those who walk many miles. Some of us will walk 1 or 2 miles and give up. Some of us will succumb along the way. And some of us will fight till the end. I'm amongst those who will fight till the end. I'm seeing that some wants to join the room. I don't know who it is. But somebody tried to join the room here. I don't know. I have not set up the system to facilitate guests. That I will be working on. So let me just wrap up here. I'm seeing my dear next mommy, Teresa Susanna Rowe, a sister, a mommy, a friend, an aunt. She's everything in one package. I just want to let her know that I love her, and I do miss you, Miss Teresa. I hope you're not too cold in New York. I hope your family is doing well. I want to say good evening to Nama Fountain Filbert. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your prayers, and may you continue to pray for me and continue to shine in your ministry. I want to say good evening to Ensign Williams, wherever you are. I hope that you're having a good one. And Corbett Bully, good night. He says, good night, Mr. Francis. And he's asking about my family. All is well, sir. I hope that your family is doing well, wherever you are. I hope that you are in good spirits and that this week will be a very satisfying week for you. Of course, I just want to encourage you to be of good courage. Continue to trust in your Lord. Continue to believe that your better days are ahead. Forgive yourself for whatever you did or did not do, whether it's a sin of commission or omission, and forgive people around you. It's important that we do that. You will only appreciate true joy and happiness when you learn to live in peace with your brothers and sisters, when you learn to love and care for your brothers and sisters, starting in your family. Absent such qualities, you may have a lot, you may have material security, but spiritually you will be unsettled. So I urge you to grow your spiritual wealth, plant seeds in your spiritual life so that you can really enjoy the things around you. Because all of us can have a better life, but it starts with us. And I just want to encourage you to have a good week. So once again, pay attention to what's happening in Dominica. Pay attention and be prepared and willing to make your contribution. I'm not too sure whether Daria Eugene has left us. She was on earlier. I want to thank her for working with me to make a child in Rosa South smile for this Christmas. And I also want to thank all the donors who have presented toys. We have a toy drive where we will take the toys to the less fortunate on Christmas Day or not too long after Christmas Day. This is something that I have been doing with the assistance of a few, including Daria, over the past years. I also want to thank Alison Pelty. I'm not too sure whether she's on here, but normally she would send toys to my group, and my group would then give the toys to the less fortunate. So I want to thank you all who have contributed and continue to contribute towards making a child smile, because of course it's Christmas time. It's a time to give. It's a time to share. You may not have much, but share. If it means that you have to plait somebody's hair or braid somebody's hair for Christmas, do it. If you have to clean somebody's yard for Christmas, do it. If you have to bake a cake, do it. Whatever it is, share, and share what you have. Do not worry about what you do not have, and appreciate what you have, because sometimes we don't appreciate what we have. We look at what our neighbors have, and we desire what our neighbors have without showing gratitude for what we have. Show gratitude for what you have and share what you have. Okay, so I'm going to say good evening. Let me just wrap up. Let me just see if we have any more, anyone here. Teresa here. Merlin, Hester, you just joined in. You are joining when I'm about to depart. Of course, the video is going to be saved, and you can always look at it. Share the video so that more persons will be privy to what we discuss. So once again, next week, God's willing, we are going to look at public housing in Dominica, a multifaceted subject. I want you to read up on MMCE and its arrangement with the government of Dominica so that you can be part and parcel of the discussion. We are also going to look at the ownership, the legal ownership of the apartments which have been built throughout Dominica. We also want to look at it from an economic point of view. Is it really economically viable for Dominica to provide this social housing? We also want to look at it from an environmental point of view in terms of whether feasibility studies were done for the sites. Some people have raised concerns about some of the sites. We want to look at that, like in Casbris as an example. Some people feel that where the houses are placed, the apartments are placed, shows a lack of vision on the part of the government. Of course, people have different views. I want to hear your view. These are just some of the issues we're going to discuss. And finally, as stated earlier, I want you to think of your nominee for Personality of the Year 2020. I've already identified my nominees. I have two nominees thus far. They are Cara Schillingford, a nominee coming from the legal field, and Dr. Irvin McIntyre, a nominee coming from the political sphere. I want you to think of your nominees and present them. And on the last Sunday, the last broadcast of 2020, we here on Contending for Dominica will present our Person of the Year. Of course, each and every one of you is a Person of the Year. Would you agree with me? You have touched lives, you have stood up, you have survived. We have survived for another year. We are 1 year older, and we're looking towards 2021. And we're going to declare 2021 as our year. This is a year of happiness. So once again, brothers and sisters, I want to thank you for being here with me live on Facebook. We meet every Sundays from 8 p.m. We'll be reviewing our time. Some people in Europe have already informed that they would like to join, but because of the time, it is not possible. So as time goes by, we'll look at our time to facilitate more for brothers and sisters without losing you, because we want all of us to be on the platform. So it is now 1:20 p.m. here on the 13th of December 2020. I am Joshua Francis, your host, attorney at law and former member of parliament. I love you. Have yourself a good evening. Until next time, I want to tell you that God bless you, God keeps you, and God protect you. Okay? So have yourself a beautiful evening. Until next time. God bless. Bye-bye.